More. And here in the United States, the Council on American Islamic Relations, a Muslim social justice group, organized a broad coalition of American Muslim organizations yesterday to collectively denounce the attacks. So how will what happened in Paris affect the Muslim community worldwide? I want to bring in the National Communications Director of CAIR, Ibrahim Hooper. Ibrahim, with a welcome to you. First of all, the Muslim community in general and the pain with these attacks, how are they reacting here in the States?
Well, of course, the American Muslim community, like all Americans, have roundly condemned these attacks, as we've condemned all the previous attacks by this brutal, thuggish group, ISIS. I mean, it's really incredible that you can get human beings to carry out these kinds of atrocities and think that somehow it's justified by their faith, which it obviously is not.
How important is it when you have the president of a predominantly Muslim country who reaches out and says that this was not something that acted in the Muslim faith, that it is not followers of Islam that were doing these acts? How might that change things and affect the ideology, if at all?
Obviously, whatever the Iranian leader says is not going to impact ISIS any more than all the hundreds of condemnations by scholars, by Muslim leaders, by political leaders. We've been condemning ISIS and its extremist ideology since it came to the public notice. But they really don't care. They live on anarchy and confusion and death and destruction, and I really don't see what's going to point them in another direction.
Have you been in touch with Muslim officials in France and throughout Europe, and if so, what are their greatest fears as a result of this?
Well, I haven't personally, but I've seen quotes from a number of French Muslim leaders, obviously expressing solidarity with their fellow citizens. And, you know, we even today here in America, we're dealing with a terroristic threat targeting a mosque in Florida. But that, you know, we don't want to emphasize that, because then it somehow takes away from the outrage against these kinds of attacks. But Muslims do feel this, even though we have no control over what these brutal ISIS thugs are doing.
Do you have any concern about backlash here in the U.S.? Although I should say that you and those in your community, leaders in the Muslim community, are speaking out so much more these days. That do you feel like your message is getting across that these are not at all representative of the ideology of Islam?
Well, we've been speaking out for years. I think perhaps maybe people are hearing the message more. But also we need to speak out not only against the attacks in Paris, but against the attacks in Beirut, in Ankara. Muslims have been the main targets of these attacks by ISIS since it came to the forefront. And it's Muslims who are rejecting their extremist ideology.
Ibrahim Hooper, many thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.
A return to Paris.